Thank you all very much for coming to today's webinar tagged Immigration Strategies for Investors and Entrepreneurs. It is an honor to be asked to moderate today's webinar, and I'm very pleased to introduce to you our speakers. We have Rebecca Eboko, who is a senior associate at ALEX. And our second speaker is also Mr. Okechukwu Okoro, who is a partner at GLIS and Co. We also have as a third speaker, Omana Blessing Omagami, senior associate, Stream Source and Co. Now, before I go on to ask our speakers to do their presentation, I will speak a little bit about myself and the company I work for. I work for ESQ Trainings Limited, and my name is Akitunde Edowu. At ESQ, we focus primarily on providing knowledge sharing sessions, such as this webinar, and public and in-plant trainings for companies, law firms, techpreneurs, and business people. Our mission is to expand the frontiers of continuous professional learning with trainings and courses across various areas of practice. We have tagged this webinar series, the Launch Hour webinar series, as they are slated to roll at 1 p.m. during the lunch break. They will hold twice every week, Tuesdays and Thursdays respectively. And after every session, you have access to our resources on the go for any one of you who is interested. And please make sure to use the Q&A tab that you have in the Zoom app to ask your questions. And our panel will be sure to attend to them, either at the end of the presentation or while the presentation is ongoing. Today we are considering immigration strategies for investors and entrepreneurs. And it's a crucial topic because many national agendas are currently revolving around immigration. And there are probably 1 billion entrepreneurs and more than 232 cross-border migrants. And this webinar is to provide an understanding of the various options available to a foreigner who is interested in investing or setting an office in Nigeria. Our learning outcomes will revolve around the impact of immigrant entrepreneurs and professionals on Nigerians' competitiveness. It will identify the most common mechanisms available under immigration law to assist foreign nationals in investing in and launching businesses in Nigeria. We investigate unconventional options to assist clients in achieving these goals as soon as possible. We also look at innovative methods for creating an immigration strategy, immigration considerations for startups, and lastly, cultural diversity and entrepreneurship in Nigeria, with reference to the policy responses to immigrant entrepreneurs. Without further ado, I'm going to call on Rebecca Eboko to make a presentation. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. Would you have me share my slides, or would you like to share from your end?
No, you can do that from there. That's fine.
Okay. And so I'll be, 1 second, just so I can share my slides. I hope my slides are now visible to everyone.
Yes.
All right, so thank you very much. I'll be speaking about foreign national entrepreneurs and creative approaches to developing an efficient immigration strategy. So basically, by way of an overview, immigration is a very important consideration to any economy, especially when it has to do with investments. For so many reasons, people migrate from one country to the other for business reasons, for personal reasons, and the likes. But immigration is one of the key contributors to the economy of any country. So it's very important that countries have legal frameworks that encourage, investing entrepreneurs into their countries. And one of the things that give concern to a lot of entrepreneurs when deciding where they want to invest or how they want to expand their business to international frontiers is the rigors of immigration involved in such endeavors. So today we're just going to be looking at the concept of foreign national entrepreneurs and how they can create efficient immigration strategies. So by way of introduction, I've said here that the world is indeed a global village, and there is no gainsaying the fact that immigration is a naturally occurring factor in trades and businesses. So long as the world exists, people are going to have to move from one end to the other for personal reasons or for trade and business purposes. And also, goods and services often travel from their origin to consumers and end users. Sometimes it's the services that migrate, the individuals don't. And sometimes it's just the goods that migrate. Sometimes the individuals also have to migrate in a bid to further the course of business and trade. So this journey sometimes is also enhanced by technology. And we all know that right now we are having a virtual meeting where we can talk to each other from the comfort of our various locations without having to have physical interactions. So that is how it is with technology aiding businesses too. But in some cases, businesses will require physical migration. If this meeting was a physical one and it was going to hold in another country, for example, I would have to travel down, and perhaps participants as well would have to travel down for this meeting. And so it is with businesses and investment. So as the global business environment continues to evolve, there are new opportunities for entrepreneurs and investors. These opportunities, emerge around the globe, and they depend on the kind of activities that investors are typically interested in, transacting. But this usually comes up where you have individuals who have business presence in another country and they are exporting their businesses or services to other countries. In the course of doing that, they may discover that beyond exporting their goods and services, there may be an opportunity for you to have a resident business operation in that country. And that's what leads businesses from transitioning from local to global to local, and however we look at it. But usually this is followed by foreign investment and the rigors and the general framework that surrounds it. So it's always very important for an entrepreneur to decide when it's about investing in another country, what are the things that I need to know? Will this investment require my physical presence in that country? And if it does, what are the immigration formalities I have to consider? Would I be coming along with some startup staff from my country of origin? Would it require any legal licensing, regulatory framework for me to be able to meet up with the goals of establishing my business presence in my country of interest? So these are all the considerations that entrepreneurs and investors need to have at the back of their mind, because it's not just enough to take your business to another country. You also need to understand, how am I going to operate this business? Do I intend to operate this fiscally or virtually? And if it's physical, then certainly immigration considerations definitely have to come to play. So now we're going to be talking about who a foreign entrepreneur is and why it is important to develop efficient immigration strategy. Now, a foreign national entrepreneur is a person who commences or establishes a business presence in another country. So as a Nigerian, if you decide to start up your business in Ghana, for example, in Ghana, you'll be considered a foreign national entrepreneur. If you decide to cross, the African shores and take it to Europe and other countries of the world, you definitely will be considered a foreign national entrepreneur. So basically, what this implies is that foreigners doing business in Nigeria and the Nigerians doing business in other countries. For the purpose of this discussion, we're basically looking more into the consideration of business operation in Nigeria for foreign national entrepreneurs. Now, most countries of the world recognize the value addition of foreign entrepreneurs to their economies. And in return, they try to formulate policies and regulations that are friendly, that enable investment. And those policies and regulations guide the operations of those foreign-owned businesses. For example, in Nigeria, we have the Immigration Act. We have provisions for how foreigners can come into Nigeria and do businesses. And sometimes we have, the routes that they can take when they are still considering their business operations. For example, once you set up your business, when you are coming to speculate and see the viability of your business, you will be coming to the country as a tourist, you will be coming to the country as a business visitor, and then you get to talk about things like business visa, tourist visa, temporary work permits, and the vast range of the options that are available for foreign national entrepreneurs to consider. But the major point for consideration in determining foreign investment for any entrepreneur is the immigration requirements. People want to know, what do I need to do to meet up with the immigration requirements? Are the immigration requirements friendly? Are they going to aid my business operation in this country that I have interest in? This is true because immigration requirements will determine how suitable the operation of that proposed investment or foreign-owned business would be able to be viable in that country where you are deciding to go. It's therefore important for foreign national entrepreneurs to develop immigration strategies. Don't decide to go into Nigeria without understanding the immigration considerations that you should avert your mind to. Don't decide to go into another country as a Nigerian too, without considering what are their local laws, what are the immigration realities and technicalities in that country of my interest. So now, talking about creative approaches to developing an efficient immigration strategy. When we are talking about being creative, we're trying to say that you need to devise something that works exclusively for you, something that is modeled for your own purpose. You devise it. Creativity here means you are being ideative. It's an idea-driven intervention. In other words, you are finding a way around the situation. You are deciding, oh, okay, as I'm going to the country where I want to do my business, as I'm going to Nigeria, for example, am I going to be coming in with an STR visa? Do I need a business permit? Do I need an expatriate quota? Or can I do this with an STR, or is a business visa going to be appropriate for me? You have to look at the peculiarity of your own business operation or your proposed business operations. So you're going to be considering all of that. But again, that when we talk about people who are doing technical services, the nature of their jobs and the urgency of the kind of intervention they are coming to establish may determine the kind of immigration strategy that you'll be adopting. But on the overall, what is important is that you are able to create a tailor-made strategy for your own business. What works for you is definitely not what exactly may work for another person. So this means that one cap does not fit all entrepreneurs, and then you must be creative about approaching your own immigration strategy so that on the whole you can achieve the goal and aim of your investment as an entrepreneur. Now, how do you go about creating an immigration strategy in a manner that is creative, or how do you achieve efficient immigration strategy? To achieve an efficient immigration strategy, one of the things that you need to consider is that, and a lot are fond of doing this, you have to think the 360 approach to immigration strategy. So you're not going to be coming into a country to operate your business and having a mindset that, oh, all I need to do is register a company and get my visa, get a house, get a shop, and start up the business. It sounds straightforward. It sounds like what it should be, but in most cases, that's not what it should be. And sometimes you have to think about your eligibilities. Sometimes the kind of business you even want to operate is not eligible for the best immigration possibilities that you have in that country. So you're going to be considering a lot of things. You have to look at the full picture. You have to be able to consider all the implications of the kind of business that you want to operate. So you're not supposed to approach immigration issues with a mindset, okay, naturally, people tend to follow examples of people who have gone ahead of them. So if you have a friend, for example, that came to Nigeria and was able to set up a barbering salon, and already he's settled in Nigeria, he's fine. And then you also want to come to Nigeria and you want to probably set up a business center where you're photocopying documents and all of that. And you come into the country and you also think that, oh, all it takes is to just get a lawyer, register your business and fly into the country and start doing that business. That looks like a straightforward method, but that's not always the case, because you have to consider a number of things. The person who is your example may be from a country that does not require who has residence card. So many other considerations may apply. So immigration issues or strategies should not be modeled after stereotypes. They should be considered holistically in relation to the kind of business operations that the entrepreneur intends to establish in Nigeria. And also, when considering immigration strategies, it's very important to gather all the information that is applicable. For example, your eligibility, the requirements for each nationals in immigration issues, because on policies of government, and sometimes the very smallest of mistakes where you become a contravener of the law. You don't want to do that, especially in a foreign country where you're not familiar, with their processes and everything. The last thing you want to do is to commit an immigration offense. Most people commit anyway and unknowingly. So, but ignorance of the law is not an excuse in any crime. So you always have to seek advice from experts. You have to talk to experts. They have to look at the circumstances surrounding your investments, your aspirations, and the goal of your operations in whatever country you want to go to. And I'm saying this because, there are also Nigerian businesses that intend to expand their operations into other countries of the world. So don't act based on, examples of people. Don't Everybody's situation is never the same. So you always have to consult with professionals so that you can have a full picture and you can understand what is applicable for you in that circumstance. Another thing that you need to do to create an efficient immigration strategy is to determine the suitable option for your own business model. So sometimes you may be able to achieve what you want to do in partnership with existing local companies. And that means that you may not necessarily have to be there physically, so that you are not resident, so to say. And in that cases, in such cases, you may be able to find immigration options for short-term stay, where you can actually work, earn an income, go back to your country, and then when you have a full picture, when you understand your eligibility, you understand the requirements, you know what you're able to and capable of, bringing to the table, then you're able to determine, okay, of all the options available, this is the most suitable one for me. And eventually, when you do that, the last thing you also need to consider is creating a compliance checklist. So with immigration laws, there are always post licensing requirements. For example, as an expatriate working in Nigeria, there are monthly returns to be filed. Your quota would expire in 3 years. Before it does, what should you do? So these are things that you need to consider. You create a checklist. You understand what the law requires for you to do at every point in time. And then based on that, you are able to ascertain that you are ticking every item on your checklist to ensure that at every point in time you are complying with the immigration legislations and policies that are available in that country where you are operating. Now, I just want to briefly round off by talking about the benefits of having an efficient immigration strategy. So usually, there would always be immigration, like I said from the beginning. And it's important that you abide by the law, you approach your strategies within the confines of the law. But when you have the strategy in place and you have it in an effective and efficient manner, what you're going to be able to achieve is the goal of your business operation in that country. Sometimes people migrate on business grounds, but for personal purposes. sometimes they want to migrate. For example, some people may be planning to relocate to Canada or to America, and they look at all the options and say, oh, I think my best option would be to start up as a student, or my best option would be to get a local to offer me a job opportunity. And when I naturalize, I can start up my business. Sometimes people have enough money, enough capital to start up their investment from the beginning, and they go for the investment category of immigration formalities. Same it is with Nigeria, but whatever it is, by the time we look at the full picture, we seek proper counsel and get the proper advice, what you'll be able to achieve is that goal that you have set out from the beginning. So your strategy is aimed at ensuring that you achieve the goal that you set out to achieve in the first place. And that's what happens when you create an efficient immigration strategy. Also, when you ensure that you have a good strategy in place, you would rarely, if not ever, come into a situation where you will be you'll be guilty of committing an immigration offense. That's very unlikely to happen if you set up your strategy properly from the beginning. So that's one of the benefits of ensuring that you have a good immigration strategy in place. And again, what immigration strategies do to the economy of any country is to enhance a dynamic economy. So we have an economy where people come into the country, they're able to set up their businesses, there's technology transfer, there's innovation, there's job creation. We're able to exchange ideas. People that have lived in countries that are more developed are able to come into countries that are less developed, and they bring about, infrastructural developments with their innovative ideas, with their business technology ideas, and with whatever kind of investment that they set out to establish in their country of target. And on the whole, what you have in summary is a situation where you have a good economy, sustainable economy, an economy that is investment driven. It also makes sure that sometimes when you have foreign investment in your country, it boosts local capacity, because locals are able to look up to those foreign investors, take up some ideas from what they see happening in their environment, and they're able to replicate it over a period of time. And what that helps with is total economic growth. So on the whole, immigration is a very important consideration for business operations, for investments, and for entrepreneurs. And it should be done, or the strategies to achieve entrepreneurial, sustainability of your investment in any country you choose is all around centering your strategy in compliance with the laws of those places that you choose to invest in. So don't forget that it's important for you at every point in time to also speak with a professional wherever you have doubts, and definitely they'll be able to guide you in ensuring that you achieve your goal for setting out in that country of choice. So I'd like to stop here, and hopefully in the course of the webinar, we'll get to talk more about this. So thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation for now.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, for that insightful session. At this time, we would move on to the presentation of Blessing. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, clear.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me, and thank you so much for that presentation. Okay, as we all know, we're talking about migration strategy for investment and entrepreneurs. So I will be speaking on, please, can you see my slide? I don't know if I'm already sharing my slide.
No.
Okay, so let me just do that. Just a minute, please. Please, can you see my slide now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'll be speaking to policy guide on immigration for investors and entrepreneurs. So for every economy, it's important to have immigration guidelines because, as we all know, where we have investment, in an economy helps to grow the economy, create job opportunities for people. So generally, investment and entrepreneurship has increasingly become key drivers to job creation and economic growth in any nation. Nigeria as a country is not exempted from this. They've also tried to increase local and foreign investment by the laws and the regulations that is introduced. When we talk about investment would be by an individual coming from another country to come and invest in Nigeria. It could also be by a foreign company coming into Nigeria to invest. So there are different categories of foreign investment and entrepreneurs. So we have different laws that regulate how foreigners come into the country to invest, and also have laws that guide individuals that want to, foreign individuals or foreign investors that want to invest in Nigeria. So with respect to immigration, the Immigration Act is clear on that. Section 34 provides that where a foreigner wants to come and invest here in Nigeria, he has to follow the requirements articulated in the Immigration Act. So if a Nigerian company also has a need to bring in foreigners to come and work as employees, they also have to comply with the provisions of the Immigration Act. So as we go along, I would also discuss that. But basically, like I said, for investment in Nigeria, there are different categories. One, an investor who wants to come and invest in Nigeria as an individual. Two, the investor may also want to come into Nigeria to partner with a Nigerian company that's already in existence. And three, the investor will want to come in to set up his own company. That's also regulated by the Companies and Allied Matters Act. So as we go along, I will discuss that. Now, when we talk about foreign investment, a foreigner that is desirous of investing or setting up a business in Nigeria has two options: either to choose the foreign portfolio investment, the FPI. When we talk about foreign portfolio investment, this is where the foreigner comes in to come and invest in an already existing business, to partner with another business or company in Nigeria. That's what we mean there. So we also go down to say which involves investing in stock, security, or other existing Nigerian companies, or embrace foreign direct investment. So when we talk about foreign direct investment, this is when the foreigner comes in as an individual, or when a company comes in as a company to invest here in Nigeria. We have the Chevron, we have the MTN and some other companies that are coming to Nigerian economy to set up their businesses and invest here, and that also helps to grow the economy of Nigeria. So the development growth of international business relations and importance of foreign investment to the Nigerian economy has made the country put in place some foreign business protection law and investment incentives related to tax, export, and other sectors aimed at improving foreign portfolio investment and foreign direct investment. So because of the movement of people coming in, companies coming in, immigration and entrepreneurship and investment in Nigeria, so there's a need, and there was a need which Nigeria has tried to also create enabling environment for that, to create laws to protect these investors and to also create enabling environment for these investors to come and invest in Nigeria. where a foreigner is not only an investor but desires to run a business in Nigeria, he must be physically present in Nigeria. As I've referred to physically present here, it means that as a foreign investor, if you want to come and invest in Nigeria as an entity or as an individual, not partnership with an already existing company, you need to come to Nigeria and set up a company. You need to incorporate your company here in Nigeria. Chapter 3 of the 2020 CAMA talks about how you can come in to set up a business in Nigeria. Although there are exemptions, we'll talk about it later, where even though you come to Nigeria to do business, you don't need to incorporate a company here in Nigeria. So these are all regulations: the NIPC Act, the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Immigration Act, and the NIPC Act, as it states here. This is the apex regulation for foreign investment in Nigeria, mandated to encourage, promote, and coordinate investment. So anything that has to do with investment, the NIPC has to regulate it. It helps the investors, and tell them what to do, the requirements that is needed to come in to invest in Nigeria. When we talk about CAMA, CAMA is regulated by the Corporate Affairs Commission. That has to do with the registration of the company here in Nigeria. Okay, Section 80 talks about exemption, where you just come to Nigeria to do some short-term job or to work with the government as a company. You don't need to incorporate, but when you come into the country to set up your own business, for you to have, for you to be recognized and to be legally present here in Nigeria, you have to incorporate your company under CAMA. So CAMA regulates this as well. We also have the immigration, as this generally talks about immigration for individuals, all the permits that are needed, and this is also done by the Nigerian Immigration Service. Okay, the Nigerian Constitution guarantees foreign investors to enjoy fair and equitable treatment. So the Nigerian Constitution allows foreigners to come into the country, to come and do business in the country. So we still have some other regulations. The Investment and Security Act regulates investment and security through the Security and Exchange Commission, keeps and maintains for register of foreign portfolio for investment and other. NOTAB, NOTAB has to do with the registration of technology, where a foreigner comes in technology, they're in charge of registering the contract between the foreigner and the Nigerian business entities, or where a Nigerian individual also wants to export knowledge. So NOTAB is also responsible for that. The Nigerian Visa policy, and this was set up in 2020. This was also set up by the government to ease the way foreigners come in. They have different classes. It was increased from 6 to about 76. I will talk about it below. This visa policy states how foreigners can come in to do business here in Nigeria, what they need, their requirements, the types of visa they need, the exemptions, and the mode of application. So these also affect immigration. The CBN has to do with, the regulations, that regulates how capital, the movement of capital, the movement of foreign exchange between investors and between foreigners who come to Nigeria to invest. So we have other laws that also talk about foreign investment. We have the value-added tax laws, we have the company income tax and the personal income tax. All these laws here are peculiar to the kind of business that the investor has come in to invest in Nigeria. Okay, so this policy framework for doing business in Nigeria. The policy framework has to do with registration with the CAC. Like I said before, when investors come in, even as an individual or as a company, for you to have a presence here in Nigeria, you need to register your company, because that is provided by the Company and Allied Matters at CAMA. But there are exemptions, and these are the exemptions here. But a foreigner that has come into Nigeria to do business on his own, without partnering with an already existing business, you cannot just come in to do business. You must register with CAMA. These are the only exemptions where the foreign company invited by the government to execute specific projects, foreign companies who are in Nigeria for the execution of specific individual loans, projects for donors, country, and organizations. Okay. So I have side notes there. Okay. So there are other several legal requirements for immigration for investors and entrepreneurs seeking to do business in Nigeria. The registration with the CAC is very, very important. So even if you're registering a business name, public company, limited company, by partnership, you must register with the CAC. So for foreign companies who set up companies here in Nigeria, you can have 100% ownership, but there are also exemptions where it has to do with the oil and gas sector. You have to ensure that you comply with the local content act, where you have to bring in Nigerian personnel and Nigerian experts to also be part of that company. So visa requirements and business permits. So if a Nigerian wants us to go outside the country, you must apply for visa. You need visa. You cannot just go to any country to do business or to invest or set up as an entrepreneur without having a visa. So there are different visa requirements. Peculiar to investments and investors, these are the requirements, visa requirements. It's important to have and understand that you need to comply with these regulations as an investor. Okay, so we have visa on arrival, we have business visa. Business visa, if you're coming in to do business, you just come for that particular purpose to do your business. Subject to regularization visa for long term, the nature of your business will determine the kind of visa you will get. For temporary work permit, this is just for 90 days. It can be it's for the employee who is the employer who is employing the employee as an expatriate or a foreigner that is responsible for applying for that. Okay, all these innovations is done to encourage foreign investment in Nigeria. The immigration regulations 2017 provides for issuance of investors visa, for a foreigner who has imported an annual minimum threshold of capital into the country. So where a foreigner comes into the country and comes in with capital investment, to invest financially here in Nigeria, the person is given an investor visa. The visa usually lasts for 5 years. Okay. Now the visa policy expanded the provisions and expanded the classes of visa from 6 to 79. So each visa class is intended to cover every conceivable travel purpose. So if you look at the policy, it's a very voluminous document. It has different classes of visa. This is not just peculiar to investors, it's peculiar to any foreigner coming in. You have the classes of visa that you need when you're coming in to do business. Immigration Act, so for business permits, Immigration Act 2020 provides for any foreigner wishing to do business, any foreigner coming to do business, you have to acquire what they call the business permit. Section 50 of the Immigration Act provides for that. Business permit is the authorization for foreigners to own and conduct business in Nigeria for the local operation of businesses with foreign investment, either as a branch or subsidiary of the foreign company. So when you have your business permit as an investor, you are allowed to do business and partner with Nigeria company and Nigeria entities. The NICC is responsible for this, and usually those that give the permit is issued by the NICC through the Ministry of Interior. So we look at the expatriate quota and residence permit and one-stop investment center. So when we talk about expatriate quota, it means the number of expatriates that are needed to come into the country to do business. So if you you have a business, even as a Nigerian entrepreneur, where you want to bring in foreigners, the kind of business you have will determine the number of people you need. So that's what the expatriate quota. So companies employing expatriates, we need to obtain this EQ for each expatriate. The EQ is an authorization that establishes the minimum number of expatriates the company may employ. So you must get it permit. You can't just get foreigners or investors to just come into the country to join you in your business or to come and carry out some tax or business. You have to first of all get the permit, before you apply for and get the permit before they are allowed to come in. When you talk about SEPA, you would have first of all obtained your resident permit and your expatriate quota before you can apply for SEPA. It's just a card that is given, it encompasses of everything, and you have that card. That is what the foreigner would use. This permit is necessary for expatriates employed in Nigeria based on a valid expatriate quota and complete the regularization of the STRO and visa. So you must first of all get your visa to come in, you get your business permit, and you get the expatriate quota before you can apply for this. So residence permit, this permit is granted to a foreigner who visited Nigeria using the STRO visa. The foreigner is required to change his status from a visitor to resident by obtaining a resident permit as a validity period of 2 years. Sorry, that should be for a valid period of 2 years. So when you come in, you can now obtain your resident permit. That's what you do. So the OFIC, this was also created by the Nigerian government to reduce the stress or to make things easy for foreigners. So when they come in under this center, you can get everything you want. You can get your business permit, you can get your expatriate quota, you just apply here. It brings together all the relevant government agencies to one location to fast track the services for investors, just to make it easy for investors to get all they need to be able to legally do business in Nigeria. So the objective of the center is to simplify business entry process by removing administrative and regulatory bottlenecks pertaining to doing business in Nigeria. We have 27 participating agencies in Nigeria. So having spoken about all the laws and the regulations, okay, there are incentives too. The Nigerian government has also tried to provide some incentives to foreigners who come in to do business. This again is to help the growth of the economy. So we have legal protection of property. The way Nigerian individuals are protected against compulsory acquisition of land without compensation, where under Section 44 of the Land Visa, where a foreigner comes in to do business in Nigeria, the foreigner also enjoys such protection. So as a foreigner, you are also protected. The government can't just come and take your land, without the necessary compensation. So we have the tax exemption, realization from foreign investment, especially in areas of industrial development. So there are certain criteria for businesses and where investors come to invest, where it's something that is novel and you have brought into Nigeria to invest. You also put that into, the government puts that into consideration and give you some kind of exemption from tax. So tax holiday for pioneer companies and tax credit on local raw materials, where you bring in raw materials and invest in such things. You're also giving some incentives, which is, you have some incentives and you are not allowed or you are not expected to pay tax for a particular period. We have relief from import duties, so instead of paying the import duties, as a foreigner, you're also exempted from doing that, just to encourage foreigners to do business in Nigeria. Capital importation and repatriation, as well as profit. So when you come in to do business, you're allowed to go in, you are allowed to repatriate your profit and also take your capital, So it depends. There are also considerations that will also be looked at, to enable the investor enjoy this benefit. Just recently, the NIPC and the FRS have put together, different fiscal incentives by the Nigerian tax law to see how investors can also be protected and how they can enjoy and come freely to do business in Nigeria. So this is under Section 4.1 of the NIPC Act. Limitations, okay. In as much as the government has tried to create an enabling environment for people, investors, and then entrepreneurs to come into Nigeria, foreigners to do business, there are also some limitations. The limitation has to do with validity period of their visa. Just 2 years. It's cumbersome going back to apply for visa. That is also a limitation. So because once your visa as a foreigner expires after 2 years, you're expected to go back to renew your visa. So that is also a limitation for them. The activities to be carried out by foreign investors are determined by the class of visa. So if you come in with a business visa, you are not expected to do any other thing. So the classes of visa determine what an entrepreneur comes in to do. So it may be cumbersome for somebody that's coming to do a particular thing and going back again, or going back to apply for visa again. So that's also a limitation. The registration requirement is very slow and tedious. It takes time. You have to go, you wait after how many days, you go back and ensure that you go with the registration. So then the monitoring of foreign nationals through the filing of monthly expatriate quota returns. This is tedious. You have to go back and file every month, if it can be reduced to maybe every 6 months instead of them being to do that every month. Then when it comes to nature of required skill or occupation, foreigners are limited, especially in the oil and gas industry, because of local content, where they have their own expertise. Instead of allowing them coming to Nigeria to do their business because of what the local content has been provided, you have to get in Nigeria, to play that role. So they are limited. They are not allowed to come in with their own experts to do their business. So generally, we note that the Nigerian government is committed to improving the business, finance, and foreign participation in Nigerian economy, the constant review of existing regulation policies, and their incentives are very, 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 very important. So the Nigerian government has tried to do this, especially with the new visa policy act. So it's advisable for every foreign investor coming in to get acquainted with the immigration laws and all the regulations that helps to regulate their business with respect to capital importation and other requirements. Thank you very much. That's all for my presentation. So I'll wait to ask questions from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Blessing. Thank you for that. We'll go to the final session, which is a session delivered by Mr. Koro. And please note that if you have any questions, please use the Q&A tab there to type your questions, and they'll be addressed at the end of this final session. You have the floor, sir. You're muted, sir.
Sorry, I just noticed I was muted. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you, Blessing and Rebecca and ESQ for this opportunity. Just wondering if you can see my slide or if you're able to share from your own end.
We can see your slides.
You can see it. Okay, thank you. So thank you very much once again for this opportunity, and then to the first and the second speaker. I think they've already addressed most of the things I would have love to talk about. What I will do is just to quickly run through and maybe pick one or two things which may not have been addressed. So basically, we'll be looking at immigration strategies for investors and entrepreneurs. My focus will be on immigration considerations for startups, immigration considerations for startups in Nigeria, visa options. So we'll just cover those 5 points: preliminaries, work visa options, the new EQ, expatriate quota guideline, and then some points to note, and then conclusion. As I said, I wouldn't dwell much on issues which already have been addressed. So maybe just something to another jurisdiction. There are some restrictions. The law provides some restrictions, and the same applies to Nigeria. And the relevant law that deals with entry and exit of aliens in Nigeria, in and out of Nigeria, is the Nigeria Immigration Act of 2015. So at the end of this lecture, our intention is to look at steps and procedures that businesses or businessmen intending to come into Nigeria need to look at. And for me, by way of preliminaries, for a foreigner who intends to come into Nigeria, I think there are some couple of things. I intend to operate in Nigeria, some couple of things you need to think about as long as immigration, generally in terms of you're coming into Nigeria and as long as immigration is concerned. And the first one is, the first and the second speaker have actually addressed some of this, but I'll quickly run through them again. The first is, what actually is the nature of business you intend to do? What business do you intend to do? Do you intend to do business in Nigeria or to do business with people in Nigeria? So this seems like a play on word, but there are two different things: doing business in Nigeria and doing business with Nigeria. While the first, which is doing business in Nigeria, will require you setting up in Nigeria, having to register locally. Doing business with Nigeria or people who are in Nigeria may not necessarily, depending on how you structure it, require you doing business in Nigeria. So I'll use a typical example. If you have a situation where you are selling products to people in Nigeria, you are not in Nigeria, but you are selling products to people in Nigeria. So take, for instance, a producer of furniture who is somewhere in Dubai. You manufacture this furniture and people in Nigeria buy it. It's moved or shipped from Dubai down to Nigeria. You're actually doing business with people in Nigeria, and such would not necessarily require you setting up in Nigeria. But where you are in Nigeria, for instance, you're buying products in Nigeria and also selling to people in Nigeria, definitely you are doing business in Nigeria. The line is a bit tricky, but it's something to bear in mind. So you actually need to look at, for an entrepreneur who is considering coming to Nigeria, what's actually the nature of business I'm doing? Do I necessarily need to be here in Nigeria or something I can do from outside? Now, the second thing you need to look at is, what also is the nature of what I want to do? Is this a one-off thing or something that is going to be done on a continuous basis? So for instance, a company that has been engaged to provide EPC contracts, by EPC I mean engineering, procurement, and construction. For a company that, for instance, wants to construct a power plant or an oil rig, and you've engaged a company, say in Scotland, to come and do that project here in Nigeria. Meaning this company is basically coming to Nigeria to do this project. It's just a one-off thing. They will do it and they will leave. This is different from a company that is actually into maybe drilling of rigs or construction of power plants, that know that their plan is actually to be here in Nigeria and to keep doing this on a regular basis. So where what you want to do is is a one-off operation or one-off project, you may need to reconsider whether you really need to set up in Nigeria, or there are other ways you can structure it, and which is what we intend to address here. You can structure your business here in Nigeria. The same applies where you have to, maybe you are required to operate and maintain a facility. A foreign company that has been contracted by a Nigerian entity to operate and maintain facilities that are here in Nigeria, which is something you may just do for a period of 1 year, 2 years, after which your services will no longer be required. So you need to consider this. What I'm doing, is this something I'm doing one-off or something I'll do on a continuous basis? And this is very important in determining whether you need to be in Nigeria, because it's when you determine whether you need to be in Nigeria, then the issue of immigration starts coming up, right? So the other one is also the nature of the project. Is it a special project? Section 81 of KAMA talks about some kind of project that if you are carrying on in Nigeria, actually do not need to register in Nigeria. You can basically get an exemption from the federal government or the Ministry of Trade, the Minister of, from the Minister of Trade to operate in Nigeria. You want to do business in Nigeria. What are the regulatory approval? What are the sector-specific approvals that are required? Now, let me take, for instance, someone who is a professional engineer who wants to provide engineering services in Nigeria, whether one-off or on a continuous basis, will require some registration with current. The same applies to lawyers. So if you're an English-trained lawyer who is not qualified to practice in Nigeria, you can assist to people in Nigeria, right? There are restrictions to that. And the same applies in some professions. So if, depending also on the nature of what you are doing, these are things you need to, are there regulatory restrictions? Are there sector-specific restrictions on you as a foreigner coming into Nigeria? Are there things that you need to register or registrations you need to comply with? Another typical example is where you're providing technical services to a company in Nigeria as a foreign entity. There are requirements to register with NOTAP. I mean, the law requires that register with NOTAP. Otherwise, you'll not be able to freely repatriate or have access to the CBN regulated market. Now, but in summary of it all, once what you are doing entails, once you are an entity is engaged in, an entity conducts in Nigeria, then that entity is considered as carrying on business in Nigeria. To carry on business in Nigeria means conducting, prosecuting, continuing on a particular vocation of business on a continuous basis in Nigeria. So once you are doing any particular business in Nigeria on a continuous basis, and you are on a the business is done on a continuous basis, or you are required to permanently stay in Nigeria for the purposes of that business, you are considered as carrying on business in Nigeria, and you are required to register. So where you fall in within this category, what you actually need to do is not a one-off thing, something that will be done on a continuous basis, and you are required to permanently stay in Nigeria. Then the first step you need to take is you have to register a local CAC, and for companies operating in the free trading. Now, where you are going to be providing technical services, the law also requires that you register with the NIPC. Now, not registering with the NIPC doesn't void the contract. Remember, I said the NIPC sorry, I was talking of NOTAP. Now, NIPC registration, once a company, there's a foreign participation, even if it's one share owned by a foreigner in a company in Nigeria, you are required to register with the NIPC before you commence business in Nigeria. So after registration at the CAC, you're required to take a step further to register with the NIPC. Now, what is the whole idea of registering with NIPC? Registration with NIPC is more like to enable government to keep proper statistics and records of foreign investment, foreign direct investment in Nigeria. Now, in addition to the NIPC registration, you're also required to obtain a business permit. Business permit is issued by the Minister of Interiors. So you apply for that through the Immigration Office, and you are given a business permit, which is a permit that allows you, an approval that allows you to carry on business in Nigeria. For the NIPC, you're just registering. Okay, I'm a foreigner that's been registered in Nigeria, and we're going to be providing XYZ service. However, business permit permits you to carry on business in Nigeria as a company owned by a foreigner. Now, what typically happens for companies that are foreign owned is that in some cases, you may also require that the foreigners to work in Nigeria, in which case you need work approval, and we'll come to that. Now, you also need to know if there are sector-specific approvals you require, depending on the sector where you operate in. For those in the power sector, there are approvals which you require, depending on the nature of business, whether you want to generate, to distribute, as the case may be. In the oil and gas sector, depending on what you want to do. Also, if you're in the financial services sector, if that is where the company is going to operate, you also need to get the relevant approval from the CBN, as the case may be. Now, I talked about doing business in Nigeria and doing business with Nigeria. Now, where a company is doing business with Nigeria and not necessarily doing business in Nigeria. So where a company is providing services in Nigeria, but not on a continuous basis. Some of what you may want to consider, rather than having to set up in Nigeria, register, get a business permit and NIPC, that you may consider subcontracting. Now, this is you usually see this with engineers. So where an engineering company is contracted, an offshore engineering company is contracted contracted to provide engineering services in Nigeria, EPC. So the company will engage a local entity, enter into a contract with an entity, a company registered in Nigeria, a local company in Nigeria. The local company provides the services that are required to be undertaken here in Nigeria, whereas the foreign entity provides. So let me use example, let's say Kappa, if you want to, or maybe Julius Berger. Yeah, Julius Berger is registered in Nigeria, but assuming we were not registered, and Julius Berger is required to provide services in Nigeria to do a construction project in Nigeria. Now, the design of the work, the design of the building contract can be done offshore. That is not a problem. But to the extent that any part of that work that is required to be carried on here in Nigeria will require that you register in Nigeria to provide that. So the actual work, the building and all those that will be done in Nigeria will require registration. Now, options available to you are for a foreigner who is going to carry on such business, which doesn't require that you remain in Nigeria for a long time. So you are just going to provide services, say for 6 months, 3 months. You can subcontract. So what happens? You get a Nigerian entity, enter into a subcontract agreement with them. You provide the offshore parts, the parts that are not required to be done in Nigeria, whereas the entity in Nigeria provides the part that is to be done in Nigeria. This is very typical. Another arrangement is to do a franchise. A franchising arrangement is where you have a company in Nigeria providing the services which you, as a foreign entity, would ordinarily be able. So you enter into an arrangement, they use your name and they provide these services here in Nigeria. So the entities providing it is an entity registered in Nigeria, and you have a way of maybe controlling, and then they pay you some royalties and stuff like that. Now, one problem with this structure is that as I said, the line between business in Nigeria and doing business with Nigeria is very, very tricky, and it's something that you need to be very, very careful in structuring as a foreigner coming into Nigeria, because otherwise you may run into problem. Now, a typical problem you may run into is for a subcontract agreement, for instance, if the contract is not properly written, the contract may be interpreted as an employment contract, in which case the agreement between the foreign entity and the entity who will be providing the services in Nigeria will be considered as the entity providing the services in Nigeria is actually working for the entity offshore. So you need to take this into consideration in preparing the subcontract agreement, such that it's very clear that the entity providing the service in Nigeria is an independent contractor providing these services and is responsible for all its tax obligation, such that the arrangement cannot be recharacterized as an employment agreement rather than a subcontract agreement or a subcontract agreement arrangement. Now, this usually would happen where the entity providing the subcontractor here in Nigeria is an individual, because sometimes the nature of services that this foreign entity may want to provide may be such that you don't need a company to do it. It's just something that an individual would do. So such arrangement typically, can easily be recharacterized as an employment contract. So you need to be very careful. Recall what we are trying to do here is the ways you can structure without necessarily having to come into Nigeria and still achieve the same purpose. Now, another thing you need to bear in mind is that when you are doing business with Nigeria and you are getting income from Nigeria, even though you may not be required to register in Nigeria as a company in Nigeria, depending on how often that business is done, right, you may be subject to companies' income tax here in Nigeria. So if you actually if you are doing business on a business with an entity in Nigeria, that means you are deriving income from Nigeria, you may be subject to companies' income tax. Now, the other part of it also depends on how the contract is structured, right? That's also what you need to take into consideration, and your lawyer will advise you properly on. If the contract, especially for a subcontract arrangement, if it's not properly written, it can also be characterized as you doing business in Nigeria. And the effect of the foreign entity doing business in Nigeria without registration is that such contract is null and void. It is unenforceable, it's illegal, it is null and void. So where a company, a foreign entity that wishes to come into Nigeria is considering doing having a subcontract contract arrangement, you need to be very careful and ensure that the document is properly written so as not to be characterized as an employment contract or as the foreign entity actually doing business in Nigeria. I think I will skip through this because the earlier speakers have already addressed that the issue of the regulators involved in doing business in Nigeria and all those. Now, I get down to the meat of our discussion, which is about the visa policies in Nigeria. For a company coming into Nigeria, what you need to bear in mind about the Nigerian visa policy. Sometime in 2020, actually February 4, 2020, the president of Nigeria launched the Nigerian visa policy, the new Nigerian visa policy. Now, this new Nigerian visa policy is intended to meet up with global best practice. It came up with a number of innovations. First is it created two categories of visa. There are persons who are visa exempt or who are not required to, so it created two visa categories. So there are visa man, those who or people who are required to mandatorily obtain visa before they can enter Nigeria, and those who are exempt from the requirement of obtaining a visa before entering Nigeria. Now, this new regulation also created about 6 different, from what we used to have. Before now, we had just 6 classes of visa in Nigeria. But the new visa policy created 79 different classes. I'm not going to go into those details because they're not really very relevant. And again, an additional thing or innovation that came with the new regulation is also the visa on arrival. Anyway, this has always been. It has always been, but it came to be much more, given much more prominence. Issue of visa on arrival. 3 different, the new regulation created 3 application channels. So as we speak today in Nigeria, you can apply for Nigerian visa on 3 channels. You can either visit Nigerian embassy in the country from which you are coming in from. Well, I wouldn't dwell on all these other ones. I'll go straight to the one which relates to us, which is visa for a business, for business. Now, you can get a visa on arrival. Now, visa on arrival is a visa that is given to you just on the shores of Nigeria. Now, the visa on arrival allows you for just short stay, for just a short stay, typically not more than a month, or thereabout. So you come into Nigeria, at the shores of Nigeria, your visa on arrival only allows you to attend business meetings and attend seminar. You cannot work with a visa on arrival. So for an entrepreneur who wants to come in to Nigeria to do business, while you are still negotiating, maybe with lawyers or your professionals who will advise you, or trying to negotiate with contractors, you can actually come in with a visa on arrival. But once you're going to start working and start earning money, a visa on arrival cannot cover you. So we need to bear this in mind. Now, for this visa on arrival, some things we need to note about it, about that is that you don't require any prior application. All that is required is that you must be a high net worth individual, someone who has been traveling regularly, and it can only be used or issued at the international airports, and the payment to be made online at the ports of Nigeria, and then your biometrics to be taken. Now, you can also apply for visa electronically if you're also coming for business, for seminar, but you cannot apply for work visa electronically. Once you want a work visa, you can't do a work visa. You can't get a visa that allows you to work in Nigeria. Sorry, a visa on arrival does not allow you to work in Nigeria. And the same, an electronic visa also does not allow you to work in case of emergency or war. Now, our focus now is on the work visa. I've talked about the business visa, which just allows you to attend meetings, seminars, and maybe trainings, but definitely not to work in Nigeria. Now, for a foreigner who intends to work in Nigeria, if you're going to work in Nigeria and earn money in Nigeria, you can come in under one of 2 visas. The first is a temporary work visa called TWP. Now, a temporary work visa allows you, is typically required where you're going to work for a very short period. So for contracts that are just going to be delivered within a short period, usually not more than 3 months, you can just get a TWP, a temporary work permit. Now, a temporary work permit allows you to be in Nigeria for a 3-month period. Now, one of the innovations that came with the new visa policies, and before now, a TWP doesn't allow you, once you get a TWP and you enter Nigeria, the moment you travel out of Nigeria, your TWP will elapse and you need to get another TWP. Each time you're coming into Nigeria, you will need to get a new TWP. But with the new visa policy that was launched in 2020, there are now 2 arrangements. When you're applying for TWP, you can either apply for a single entry TWP, which allows you 1 entry. The moment you leave Nigeria, it will elapse, or a multiple entry TWP, which is actually an innovation and quite commendable. So what that means now with the multiple entry TWP means you can actually come into Nigeria to work for 3 months, and the visa will allow you to go in and out of Nigeria within those periods, which wasn't the case where you are going to work just for a short period. But what you typically see happen is that someone may come into Nigeria to work for 3 months, and after 3 months, the contract is extended. And you see contracts that were initially expected to last for 3 months, lasting for even up to a year or more. So the new visa policy, even though that has even been the case before now, allows you to renew. You can actually renew your TWP up to 1 year. Now, for people who intend to work in Nigeria for a longer period, in that case, you need a subject to regularization visa. Now, I must mention that for a work visa, whether it is a temporary work visa, work permit, or a subject to regularization visa, that's an STR, what you need, the application for such visa is made by the employer, not by the employee. Very important. It is the company that is employing or the company that the foreigner is going to work for that will make the application for whether it is a TWP and an STR. They're the ones who will apply for it and get the approval with which the foreigner can enter into Nigeria. And the implication of this is that the employer takes responsibility, accepts immigration responsibility on behalf of the worker, of the employee. The implication of this is that where there's any breach of the immigration law, it is the employer. TWP, as I said earlier, applies to short stay, short work, but when you are going to work for a longer period, the right thing to do is to get an STR. TWP process is quite straightforward. All the company needs to do is to make an application. That's the employer makes an application to the immigration that it intends to bring in Mr. or Mrs. Intends to bring in A, B, or C into the country to work within so and so period and to provide XYZ services, and they agreed to provide the immigration, to take immigration responsibility. And they are given what you need to do when the company, the employer makes the application, you attach your certificate of incorporation, details of the directors, and typically a TWP, give or take, comes up. I mean, you're able to get a TWP max within a space of 2 weeks, maybe a month. Sometimes it doesn't even get to that. You can actually get a TWP processed within a week or two, thereabouts. But subject to regularization visa seems to be a bit more complicated. This is where the employee will be staying or will be working in Nigeria for a longer period. Now the process, I'm going to take us through the process of getting a subject to regularization visa, which is a visa that allows you to work in Nigeria for a long period. Now, the first step towards getting an STR visa is as I said before, the Nigerian company, that's the entity registered in Nigeria, applies for EQ. You apply on behalf of the alien, on behalf of the foreigner. Now, application for EQ is made to the Ministry of Interior through the Nigerian Immigration Service. The timeline typically takes about 2 to 3 months. In fact, these days, it can take you up to 4 months to get an expatriate quota. So the first step to getting a subject to regularization visa, the first step is to get an expatriate quota. Now, an expatriate quota is more like, as the name goes, is a quota. It's more like a slot, which allows the company to bring in foreigners into Nigeria to work for the company. You can have as many slots as possible, from 1 to as many as possible, as many slots as possible. But the main thing there is that it's an application on approval that allows you to bring in foreigners, depending on the number of slots you are given. An application for expatriate quota takes about 2 to 3 months. And as I said, recently, it can take even up to 4 months. Usually, when the approval is given or the slot is given, it's typically for a period of 2 to 3 years. And at the discretion of the Minister of Interiors, it can be for a period of 2 to 3 years. Now, after the expiration of the 3 years, you can always renew. So an expatriate quota given for 2 to 3 years allows you within this period to bring in the foreigners, the number of foreigners stated under the EQ. Now, 2 key things I need to mention about EQ is that number 1 is for a period, and number 2, it allows you to bring in the number of foreigners stated on the face of the EQ. And maybe a third point is that the EQ also specifies the designation, the particular work that the expatriates are supposed to do in Nigeria. So you must ensure that the expatriates who are coming on, the foreigners who are coming in under these expatriate quota slots, actually that their job or their role or the role they're undertaking in the company here in Nigeria are those specified under the expatriate quota. Otherwise, you'll be running foul of the law, and such company, if found wanting, would be liable for a penalty, and in some cases, the company can be wound up. Under the Immigration Act, the Act empowers the Ministry of Interior to actually wind up, commence processes for winding up of the company, where a company fails to comply with the expatriate quota provisions. As I said before, the expatriate quota is issued in the name of the company. Now, the implication of this is that it allows where the foreigner, so let's say a company is given an expatriate quota for 3 years, And under the expatriate quota, it allows you to bring in an MD, maybe an MD, a foreign MD to work for the company. Now, within those 2-3 years, it allows you, even where the foreigner resigns or leaves the services of the company can still, on the back of the same quota, bring in other foreigners. So first, you apply to the Nigerian company applies to the Ministry of Interiors through the Nigerian Immigration Service for expatriate quota, stating the number of expatriate slots he wants and the designation of the expatriates. When you make this application, the minister reviews it and grants you for expatriate quota for a period of year. The expatriate quota will state the number of foreign employees you can bring in and the particular post they are to hold in the company. Now, upon receipt of the expatriate quota, after the expatriate quota is granted, a copy of the expatriate quota is now sent to the Nigerian embassy or diplomatic office in the country where the foreigner is coming in from. So let's say a foreigner who is coming in from Lebanon. A foreigner who is coming in from Lebanon, a Nigerian company wants to employ a foreigner from Lebanon and has gotten an expatriate quota. So what the company needs to do is to send the copy of the expatriate quota to the foreigner in Lebanon. The foreigner takes it to the Nigerian embassy or diplomatic office there in Lebanon. Now, when you get there, when you get there, what is required is the expatriate quota, a formal application by the employer, the Nigerian entity. These are things that has to be submitted to the Nigerian embassy in the country where the foreigner is coming in from. So you need to first submit a copy of the expatriate quota given by the Minister of Interior, a formal application from the employer to the Nigerian embassy in the country, saying that XYZ is the person we want to employ under so and so slot, a valid passport with a minimum of 6 months validity. This is the passport of the employee, and also passport page, a data page of the international passport of the Nigerian, who is any officer of the company, of the Nigerian company bringing in the foreigner. Then a copy of the letter of employment and a letter of acceptance, a letter showing that the foreigner has actually accepted the employment. These will be submitted, and also CV, the CV of the foreigner with copies of all the educational qualifications, a duly completed form IMM 22. This is an immigration form that can be downloaded online. The foreigner, this form also has to be completed. And where the foreigner is going to take up a position on the board of the company, maybe a member of the board, a director, an extract of the minutes of the board, confirming that that foreigner has been appointed to the board of the company will also have to be submitted. So all these documents, the copy of the expatriate quota, a formal application by the Nigerian company employing, data page of the passport of the Nigerian officer who is signing the application letter, letter of employment, letter of acceptance, letter of acceptance of offer of employment, the copies of all the educational qualification certificates of the foreigner, copy of the CV, immigration form, and then extract of a board meeting where the foreigner is going to sit on the board of the company. All these will be submitted to the Nigerian embassy, to the Nigerian embassy or diplomatic office in the company where in the country where the foreigner will be coming in from. Now, when this is submitted, typically the Nigerian embassy there would endorse the foreigner's passport with the STR. STR is the subject to regularization visa. So this visa allows the foreigner to enter into Nigeria and to stay in Nigeria for a period of, allows the foreigner to enter into Nigeria. And once the foreigner enters into Nigeria, depending on the endorsement on the passport, the foreigner has to, within the period designated there, make sure the foreigner regularizes his or her stay in Nigeria. Now, the interesting thing about expatriate quota coming in under the STR, subject to regularization visa, is that the subject to regularization visa allows the foreigner to bring in his or her spouse and also the children to Nigeria. This is not the same with a temporary work permit. A temporary work permit only allows you as a foreigner to come in as a person. But where you want to bring in your family with you, you will need an STR. So the STR visa, with the STR visa, the foreigner can actually bring in both his spouse and then his direct dependents into Nigeria on the back of the subject to regularization visa. Now, when the foreigner comes into Nigeria, recall, you submit the application at the Nigerian embassy in the country where you are coming in from. With the document submitted, the passport is stamped with an STR subject to regularization visa. Now, the moment the foreigner enters into Nigeria, you have a limited period between 30 to 90 days within which to regularize the person's stay. Now, what is required in regularizing the visa is just to pay for SEPAC. SEPAC is Combined Expatriate Resident and Work Permit Card. Now, this SEPAC doubles as a multiple entry visa and also as a work permit. Some people call it green card, maybe because it's green in color. So the card allows you, with this card, once you've gotten this card, when you get your STR, you come into Nigeria, you pay for your SEPAC. Now the SEPAC is, when you pay for your SEPAC, you are given a card. This card allows you to travel in and out of Nigeria within the period that the SEPAC is valid. Typically, if SEPAC is usually valid for a period of 1 year, and then the foreigner will still be renewed. I think that is it. So the things to bear in mind. Okay, when I get to points to be noted or issues to be noted, I will address that. Now, there were some changes that were recently made in January of this year by the Ministry of Interior on expatriate quota applications. Some of them are not really new, but there are points I think for any foreigner coming into Nigeria, you need to note. The first is that the minister shall conduct an appraisal of EQ positions granted to a foreign company in Nigeria. So the effect of this new expatriate quota position granted to company. The second one is that expatriate quota returns can now be made online. The monthly expatriate quota returns can now be made online. So rather than having to do with going to immigration office to submit, once this is fully implemented, companies that have foreigners working with them can actually make their expatriate quota returns online. And what does this expatriate quota return typically contain? So it states the number of foreigners who are in the company at the end of each month, the number of persons who are understudying or working under them, the number of years that their that the expatriate quota is to run for, and the number of years that their SEPAC is to run for. And if there's any foreigner who has left the employment of the company within the month, these are also stated in the expatriate quota returns. Another requirement under the new EQ regulation, which was issued, or which is yet to be finalized, is that every company with a foreign employer, with a foreign employee, is required to file formal notice to the Ministry of Interiors, specifically indicating which officer is responsible for who is their representative, as long as engagement with the Ministry of Interiors is concerned. So more or less, each company is supposed to indicate their contact person, who will be the contact person as long as the company's engagement is. For a company that has a foreigner working with them, the company has to form, this wasn't a requirement before now, any staff of the company can always file the returns. But the requirement now is that every company has to formally notify the ministry of who their representative or their liaison person would be in terms of engagement between the company and the Ministry of Interiors. Another innovation which will be coming with this policy once it's fully implemented is that as part of application for expatriate quota, companies will now be as part of the application for visa, will also be paying for inspection fees. Now, this inspection fees is is more like for logistics, for immigration officers who will be coming to inspect the facilities. Before now, immigrant or not at companies, that when you're now applying for expatriate quota, part of what you'll be paying for is that you'll be paying for inspection fee. Now, with this inspection fee, the officers of the Ministry of Interiors or Nigerian officers of the Nigerian immigration can always pay visit to the company. And interestingly, the regulation contemplates that the fee would have to include travel costs, where it requires traveling from one location to where it requires traveling from one location to another. I mean, where it is a visit that will require traveling over different states, you may have to pay for accommodation and all those. And all this cost is to be borne by the company, the employer. Another innovation or another new thing that has come up is that there's a general review of the fees, the cost of obtaining business permit and expatriate quota. In terms of policy responses, if I may come to that, I mean, responses, part of what Nigerian government has done, more like to encourage foreign entrepreneurs in Nigeria. I would say there's 100% foreign ownership. So Nigerian law allows for a Nigerian company to be owned 100% by a foreigner. There are no restrictions as to that. except for companies, for special companies, companies that are into production of security outfits or into, security companies. Other than that, if a Nigerian company can be owned 100% by a foreigner. The same way, the Nigerian law also allows 100% repatriation. So a foreigner that brings in money into Nigeria can easily repatriate his funds out of Nigeria, provided the fund is brought in through the regulated market and you get your CCI, you can always repatriate. Now, there's also protection from mandatory acquisition. So there's no fear that tomorrow the government can wake up and take over. And even if that is the case, you will get, compensation. The foreign company will get compensation for that. There are also tax incentives for foreigners who are coming into Nigeria to do business. Some of these incentives are sector specific. Some of them also depend on the nature of business you're engaged in. So for a foreigner coming into Nigeria, depending on your nature of business, there are lots of tax incentives and tax holidays available to foreign companies doing business in Nigeria. The fifth of it is that there is ease of entry and exit of employees, especially for foreign employees. So typically where you have your subject to regularization visa, you can easily come in and leave Nigeria at any point time with your card. Once you present your card at the borders, you can easily come in and leave Nigeria. Now, some points to note for a foreign entity considering coming into Nigeria as long as as long as immigration is concerned. First is that you need to make sure you get the proper advice, engage professionals, get your lawyers to advise you, recall the different structures I talked about, doing business in Nigeria and doing business with Nigeria. Your lawyers will advise on how to properly structure to ensure that you don't run foul of the law and you are not doing something that is illegal, both in terms and ensure you comply with all the regulatory and all the legal requirements. Also do your engage professionals to advise you on your financials in terms of your returns, the various returns you need to make. The same applies to tax. Get also your tax professionals to advise you on the different tax returns you need to make. Ensure you're up to date with filing of your returns, expatriate quota returns. Expatriate quota returns are to be made on a monthly basis, and failure to do that is actually an offense and is punishable under the Immigration Act. Now, ensure also that the expatriates are up to date in payment of their taxes, expatriate taxes. They pay their taxes because expatriates are also subject to personal income tax. They also have to remit their personal income tax. You need to ensure that the expatriates' taxes are remitted and on time. Now, the company also has to ensure that other statutory remittances are up to date as long as the foreigners are concerned. So for pension, the law makes it optional for a foreigner who is working in Nigeria. It's optional. So the foreigner may choose to open up a pension to contribute to the pension funds or not. So it's optional. But for others under ITF, Industrial Training Fund contribution, Housing Fund remittances, and all the rest, the law is not entirely clear on the face of it on what applies, but you need to ensure that your company is up to date with all the remittances required in law. You also need to bear in mind that the Nigerian Immigration Service, they usually carry on their routine checks. So you need to recall I said that your companies are granted, you cannot work in Nigeria without a work permit, which can either be a temporary work permit or an expatriate work permit. There are cases in Nigeria where the Nigerian Immigration Services storm offices and they see foreigners who come in with business visas or coming with visas on arrival and they are working in Nigeria. I once had a case of a couple of years back where the Nigerian Immigration Service stumbled on an office and they actually saw a foreigner who was actually sitting on a computer, was actually working on a computer. Well, it became the issue of whether somebody who is caught on a workstation working on a computer, working on a computer, will be taken as actually working in Nigeria and earning income. Well, that is actually laughable. But the point really is that for a foreign entity, a foreign entity that wants to set up in Nigeria, you need to ensure that you are up to date with your compliance. You need to ensure that for your foreigners who are working in Nigeria, they have the requisite approvals. For those who are working in Nigeria, they must have their work permit, either a temporary work permit or the SEPAC. Otherwise, the company may be wound up and the directors of the company may be, the company will be penalized in addition to terms of imprisonment for the officers of the company. The company also, for companies also with foreign participation, you also need to ensure that you comply with sector-specific regulations. So for instance, in the oil and gas sector, there's the local content requirement, which requires that the Nigerian Local Content Act gives some consideration for companies with for companies that are owned more than 50% by Nigerians, the Local Content Act, in addition, also requires companies to file returns, companies in the oil and gas sector to file returns on the number of foreigners and the number of Nigerians who are Nigerians for some particular class of work which they are to do. The same thing also applies in the electric power sector. So for a company that is foreign owned, you need to ensure that you are in compliance and you don't run foul with this law. So for services which are required to be provided by locals, you need to ensure that the adequate number of locals are engaged to provide the services. Look, by locals, I mean Nigerians are engaged to provide the services. Now, usually when expatriate quota is granted on the condition that there must be Nigerians who will understudy the foreigner or the expatriate working in Nigeria. So the company also needs to ensure that it has, at each particular point in time, it has these foreigners, adequate number of foreigners understudying adequate number of locals understudying the foreigners who are working in Nigeria. So I think these are the key things that a company needs to bear in mind for a foreigner coming into Nigeria. But in summary, I would say that the system is quite flexible, is not so complicated, but I think the best that the company can do into Nigeria is so you get the right advice and hold your hands on all the relevant returns and the compliances you need to, relevant laws you need to comply with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okoro. That was a very detailed and insightful presentation. Really say thank you to you. So we'll take a few questions, after which we end today's webinar. So we have a question on the chat. The question says, why are foreign companies limited in their transactions with the Nigerian federal government? Does anyone want to attend?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Oh, okay. I said that why are foreign companies limited in their transactions with the Nigerian federal government?
I'm not sure I really get, maybe if the person who asked the question can put more context to that. I don't know what they mean by limited in their transactions with the federal government. All I can say, just as I said before, is that a foreigner can own 100% any form of business in Nigeria, apart from some restricted businesses, such as businesses that has to do with security, printing of money, printing of uniforms, security outfits of Nigerian security agencies and stuff like that. Apart from those restricted business, a foreign company can own 100% an oil and gas asset, can own 100% banking facilities, any form of business in Nigeria, right? Apart from those strictly prohibited. And even contracts by federal government every now and then are being awarded to some of these companies owned 100% or owned majorly by foreigners. So I'm not sure I really understand the context now of foreigners being limited in their transaction with Nigerian foreign government. But the only thing I must mention is that in the award of contracts in some of the sectors, like in the oil and gas sector and in the energy power sector, preference is usually given to Nigerian companies. So where there are two bidders and you have a Nigerian company that meets the criteria and a foreign company that meets the criteria, Nigerian company, a company owned majorly by Nigeria will be given preference compared to a foreign company. And you must bear in mind that a foreigner cannot do business in Nigeria. So do business in Nigeria without first registering in Nigeria. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Hello?
Yeah, did you hear me? I said, I hope that helps. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Yes. I don't know if you got my response.
Yes, to a large extent, although I lost you along the way, but I'm sure the person who asked the question must have gotten the answer. Do you want to say something, Blessing, to it before we proceed to the next question?
No. Just that the question is not actually clear, but I think Chico has answered giving the.
Okay, awesome. So we have another question from one of our attendees. It says that, is a foreigner permitted to register a business name and operate a business under that vehicle? And will all the requirements mentioned under business permits, EQ, expatriate quota, and TWP, temporary work permits, apply? Do you understand the question? The question is also legibly written in the Q&A so that you can also read it.
Okay, if I may attempt the question. So the whole idea of foreigners, so the way it works, right? The way the law operates in Nigeria. So for instance, for you to get a business permit, there's a minimum share capital you need to have, right? So bearing in mind the legal requirement for getting an expatriate quota business permit, it is unlikely that a foreigner would be able to actually run such, it's unlikely that a foreigner will be able to come into Nigeria as a business permit, under a business name. Because for you to get business permits, right, you're required to have at least 10 million share capital. It's a requirement of the law. Otherwise, you won't get your business permit, neither will you get your expatriate quota, right? Except it's a company owned 100%, except it's a company owned 100% by Nigerians. But if it's a company with foreign participation, with foreign shareholders, and you want to apply for expatriate quota, because typically when applying for business permits, you would have to submit the details of the directors, right? And when you submit, and the shareholders, and when you submit, and on the face of it, they can see a foreigner there, you'll be required, the immigration office or the Ministry of Interior will typically require you that the share capital has to be up to 10 million. So bearing in mind that a business name, you are not required to have share capital. So it goes without saying that a foreigner cannot actually come into Nigeria and set up as a business name. Now, another point I also need to mention, the whole idea around foreigners doing business in Nigeria. Bear in mind that business name is typically for small businesses. It's a registration required for small businesses. Now, the whole idea of foreign participation and the restrictions on foreign participation is mainly to avoid these smaller businesses being crowded with a lot of foreigners, and it becomes a challenge for the locals, right? And that is why it's not something just peculiar to Nigeria. And that is why it is very difficult for you to have a foreigner coming into Nigeria to do business and then having to start or register as a business, register under a business name. So typically a foreigner coming into Nigeria that wants to get business permit or an expatriate quota would have to register as a company, a limited liability company, rather than a business name. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Max. I hope that answered your question. We have come to the end of the webinar in the absence of any further question. We want to thank all our panelists, for sharing these insightful sessions with us. Thank you for your preparation, and thank you for your delivery. They were very, very enlightening. A big thank you to all our attendees. Thank you for waiting through the session. And we want to thank all our sponsors as well: African Law Practice, Farmsville Solicitors, GLIS and Co., DOA Law, Advocate Law Practice, Ever Law Associates, and Bloomfield Law Practice for making today's webinar possible. Please note that the next webinar will take place on Tuesday by 1 p.m. And you can do well to watch our past webinars on our YouTube page. And we have quite a number of resources there that will really be helpful to you, and you can see them at your leisure. Thank you all for attending today. Stay tuned till next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.